Welcome to This Isn't Working, the podcast for employers and employees who think it's time to talk about the failings of workplace culture and how we can do better.
I'm Julie Scanlon.
And I'm Tanya de Grunwald.
Okay, let's get this working.
Happy International Women's Day, Julie.
Happy International Women's Day.
Oh dear. Well, we're going to talk about International Women's Day in a couple of minutes, which is, as we know, the 8th of March. Brilliant. But first, we just wanted to acknowledge that we had a really good response to our first episode. It was excellent.
I know, it was amazing. Thanks, everybody, for giving such a positive and warm welcome to it. We were a bit overwhelmed, weren't we, Tanya? And just hoping that you enjoy this episode as well, our second episode, especially for International Women's Day.
Yeah, the thing I was really pleased about with the last one was that we did get some engagement from people that we maybe didn't expect to. So it really did get people talking. I think we've definitely hit on something that's a very live issue, and people were ready for some more robust conversations. So I'm feeling really positive about that and hope we can play a role in everybody moving forward and bringing everybody kind of into the middle and kind of talking about things properly. So very encouraging signs.
Exactly. That's one of our main aims for this podcast was to set up those, a forum for a conversation. Obviously it's between you and me, but it's between everybody that is wanting to have these and kind of bringing them into the debate. So, chat with us on LinkedIn, find us on YouTube and make sure that you engage.
Oh, yes. So listen, talking today about International Women's Day, which is quite a big topic. We've had some thoughts. I don't know. I don't know how representative you and I are of women in general, people in general. In fact, men get an opinion on this too. I've got a confession. Can I be totally honest? I've never understood what International Women's Day actually is. I just don't get it. I've never got it. I've always thought it's just like a club that I'm not really part of. I don't understand it. I think my main problem with it is, I've got two problems. First one is, do we only get one day for literally half the world's population? Question mark. Point. And the second point is, I've never understood if we're supposed to be celebrating or like protesting. And I can't do both at once. I'm either protesting or I'm celebrating. I don't even know what it looks like if I'm trying to multitask that one. So do you have any further knowledge about what International Women's Day actually is, where it came from, what am I supposed to be doing?
I do indeed, as you might expect. I have a little bit
You've
of
done the research.
further info. I've done the research. I've been both celebrating and protesting International Women's Day for many, many, many years as well. And I feel rather differently about it to you, but only in some respects. But you've asked me a question about where it comes from. So I was looking at it again this morning, and started out as actually protest, like genuine protest. One of the first National Women's Days was in the US, and it was around women striking for their rights in garment factories in New York, and that was the first big kind of Women's Day that is kind of marked down for us. And then there were it comes out of labour movements. Oh, sorry, it was 1908.
Oh, wow.
A very long time.
I have totally misunderstood this. I thought it was like a recent marketing thing. This is embarrassing.
Well, you would be forgiven for thinking about that. No, 1908 was the first National Women's Day. Then there were lots of other women's days, and it was around women's labour movement, so mostly working class women fighting for their rights across Europe and the US. And in 1977, it's when the UN consolidated it into International Women's Day. And it's only in very recent years that we've started to see the more cosmetic stuff that that you're thinking about, the marketing angle. And in particular, like most people, some people will be aware that there are two themes nowadays for International Women's Day. One is a marketing theme, and one is the UN's actual theme. So you're not the only person that is confused.
How has this happened to us? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean the UN theme for this year is sensible as far as I'm concerned, and as we might anticipate or hope from the UN. So it's invest in women, accelerate progress, and they have like 4 or 5 mini themes underneath that, which I won't kind of go into. People can Google it and have a look, but it's about progressing women's rights around the world generally. So it's things to do with poverty alleviation, things to do with kind of green economies and so forth. And then we have a marketing company who owns, well, I think it's a marketing company who owns a sort of the International Women's Day.com domain, who over the last maybe 7 or 8 years is since I've been aware of it, creates their own theme, which is a lot more fluffy. It's a lot more pink. I'm sorry, you're wearing a pink jumper for our audio listeners that are not seeing that. There's nothing wrong with a pink jumper. But there is a sense of it's always more fluffy. It's always well, in my view, a little bit naff, to be honest. And this year's theme for that is the I'm not holding back. There is what is it? I've jotted it down. Inspire inclusion, and that's where we were doing the Daft Hearts at the beginning, because it comes from that. It always comes with the gesture. So they've been sort of,
it's not the gesture that you want to make.
No, it's not, and I'm going to keep my hands out of camera. It's not.
Probably wise.
It's yeah. So it's been like embrace yourself, kind of, has been one gesture.
Is there always a gesture?
There's always a gesture with that, the kind of the marketing side one, and so many companies take that on board and do that. So you have the gestures, which we see all over social media and we see people doing. And
I think we should suggest one next year.
Yeah, we could. Who
could we call?
Well, a sort of friend / colleague of mine actually has found the company that designed it for them, so I know who it is.
Great. Okay, so it's going to be a bit different next year if Julie and I get to pitch into that.
Julie and Tanya design the gesture.
Rebrand.
God,
great.
Would they let us? Yeah, would they let us loose?
Okay. So inspire inclusion, and is there there's further detail on that, but it's all fluffy nonsense, is it, as far as you can see?
From what I could see, it's pretty fluffy, and it's difficult to see how even that theme could have anything much at the root of it. So yeah, I think it's pretty fluffy. They do support some charities through that, so it's not all. I'm being really glib but I'm just sort of I have a problem with splitting the theme as well. Like, as you've actually just mentioned, we get one day. Why do we kind of create this smoke and mirrors around it and have 2 themes, one of which is actually meaningful about progress, and one of which is just a little bit more fluffy and much more cosmetic and performative. And I think that's when you were talking there about not sure whether you're protesting or celebrating, I think that kind of comes out in the 2 themes as well. There's a sort of a celebratory element, but with not much underneath it. And there's nothing wrong about celebrating women's achievements, obviously. But I think that dichotomy perhaps comes out in those 2 themes.
And then now I'm adding. Now you're making me think. If it's inspiring inclusion, am I supposed to be inspiring inclusion as well as celebrating and protesting? Because this is like just too much for me.
It's a lot going on, isn't it? It's a lot of multitasking.
And also inspiring inclusion. Do you know what it reminds me of? It feels a bit like Be Kind, which I've also got. I'm not feeling that kind at the moment, but maybe that's I've got my own stuff going on. But just basically, Well, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't love that message. Can we also be smart and be like principled and be brave and all the other things that women should be? I'm just really over being taught to be kind. And I think women's problem is not that we're not kind enough. It's possibly that we're too kind, and I'm kind of had enough of that. Anyway, let's move on before I start ranting at everybody.
And just to make the point that men are very rarely told to be kind. The hashtag Be Kind is used and directed towards women, and as you say, we're told that from the moment that we walk. So I don't think we need any more of it either. And someone made a lovely comment on one of my posts the other day, which was getting a little bit of hassle, was, women didn't get the vote by being kind. Sometimes we have to stand up for ourselves and be brave.
Excellent point. Okay, let's be a tiny bit kind and say, is anything about this working? So, what is working? We're going to do what is working about International Women's Day and what isn't working, particularly with the sort of workplace lens, I guess. So, what is working about International Women's Day in terms of what we see employers doing or attempting to do?
Yeah, I think we sort of need to recognise the good things that that employers are doing around the International Women's Day, and trying to also more generally trying to work around their gender pay gaps, and looking after their maternity policies and so forth. So some employers are doing good work, and some are not. I guess also I just want to make the point to recognise that the International Women's Day doesn't belong to employers, doesn't belong to workplaces. It has this whole great big rich history, as I've mentioned, and there's so much good work that happens in feminist grassroots organisations, sort of in those kinds of workplaces that perhaps not that we're talking about today, but that there's so much that goes on within communities that what happens within a big kind of workplace is quite a small proportion, I think, to my eye. But I think what we see organisations doing things that if they're really putting their effort into creating some good shared parental leave, good paternity and maternity policies, ensuring that there are things in place that make sure that women are, moving up the chain in organisations in the same way that men are. If they're looking at their gender pay gap and really looking at it, not just reporting it, but actually looking at where the blocks are in terms of the different sorts of segregations of roles, horizontal, vertical, etc. And if they're looking at that data and they're using it to form actions, then they are making a genuine impact into women's lives in the workplace. And that also means then women's salaries, it means women's pensions. It has this kind of big knock-on effect in terms of equity, really. So we do see some organisations doing those sorts of initiatives, not just on the one day of International Women's Day. So I do want to. I'd like us to sort of celebrate that kind of work that does go on as well.
Okay, fair enough. I'll give you that. Since I'm feeling generous, I think
begrudgingly.
No,
be kind. Be kind.
Sorry, you're right. Maybe we shouldn't have done this today. I don't know, but I mean, all that stuff's good. I also quite like the idea that it's a moment when if companies aren't doing as well as they think they should be doing, or their female employees think they should be doing, it's a moment to call out any hypocrisy and sort of hold them to account and say, hang on a minute, what are we celebrating here? But I just I guess we'll talk about this in a minute, won't we, about what we want it to be. I think there is potential in it. I'm not sure that I'm really seeing that at the moment. So maybe we'll talk about it in a second. I mean, I think there's a lot of women are having a bit of a tough time at the moment anyway. I think women are generally doing a bit of soul searching about what it means to be a woman in 2024. And there's so much going on. There's lots that women don't agree on as well. So this idea that we should all suddenly have everything in common for one day, when clearly there are such big differences going on. I mean, we've seen in terms of kind of workplace issues, we've seen women have got very different attitudes towards, for example, some of the work that's been done on menopause, kind of raising awareness about menopause and changing policies around that. Some of the stuff about menstruation has also gone down well with some people and not so well with other people. Then there's the issue of trans inclusion, and there's some women think that we should be including trans women in the definition of women, and some women don't feel that, so that can be quite divisive as well. There's just all sorts of differences between women, and I think this sort of, I don't know if it highlights that for me, or if it just, I don't know, it's just a risk that everybody goes home at the end of the day just feeling kind of grumpier than they were when they woke up. But maybe I'm just really down on it. I think it'd be quite nice to talk a bit about men as well. And I think men kind of, you see it kind of quite a lot on LinkedIn as well. And I think, there's some sweet stuff. Like sometimes the guys in the office will kind of chip in and get flowers for all the girls in the office and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. I don't love this kind of stuff, but some people love this kind of stuff. But there's a kind of goodwill towards it. And you see it on LinkedIn. You see a lot of men suddenly piping up with a post about how wonderful their wife is, or how much they love their mom or their daughters or whatever. And it's, and it's coming from a good place. But again, I think there's a danger it can feel a little bit hollow if there's nothing really behind it.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to back it up. Do you agree with
Yeah,
that?
I do agree with that. I know it does come from a genuine place, and I think it's hard for men sometimes to know what to do that doesn't look a bit hallmark, for want of a
Mm.
better term. And I think that is challenging. That how are we all meant to celebrate it? And as you say, we all have. I mean, you and I have very different attitudes towards it right here, just on this call, and as you've mentioned, differences between women. So there isn't a clear message. There isn't and we might want to think about, how are lesbians included? How are how are Black women kind of being included in relation to some of the big performative stuff that we get? So I think that there isn't a simple kind of message for people, and I think it can be very difficult to reduce it to one day. Again, it's just for making me think about, is it protest or is it a celebration, as you've talked about? And it's a little bit of both, and then all of this diversity of women that we have within it is I think it's just it can be feeling like a bit of a mishmash. And yet at the same time, as women, we do have things that the way that societies treat us, the way that workplaces treat us, there can be a lot of commonality in that as well. So it's an opportunity to bring out some of those strands. It's a confusing message, though, I think.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think I agree with that. Do you get any sense of what employers are like trying to do with it, or do you think that conversation doesn't even really happen? They just think we've got to do something for International Women's Day. Do you think maybe I feel like maybe there's a step missing where they should be thinking,
Mm.
right, what are we actually doing here? What's the point of this?
Yeah,
What are
I
they measuring something? Is there something measurable that comes out of it? I don't really know. Any thoughts?
I've never really seen any measurement into, or other than sort of maybe how many people attended something that they've put on. I'm not sure how far employers think about how this fits with their purpose, how this fits with their strategy around inclusion, for example, or around supporting their progress on gender pay gap. Maybe it happens, I'm not sure. I think it perhaps feels like there's an obligation to do something around it, because if you're not doing something about it, well, I guess if I were in an employer, working, I'd probably be annoyed if nothing was done, because it feels as though that something needs to be done. But yeah, I don't know in what respect it actually matches up, or kind of entirely what the purpose of it is in terms of the strategy. I don't know if you have any thoughts or any different experiences around that with the kind of employers that you work with more closely than me.
Mm, I don't really, to be honest. But I think I agree with you that I think it needs to be like with everything like this that employers try to do. It's all about making sure it's meaningful, isn't it? The minute
Mm,
anything feels like a tick box,
mm,
anything, particularly anything around diversity, you've kind of lost the room already, I think. So I
yeah,
think, and then there's this awful thing where we're supposed to be sort of grateful for any tiny scrap of whatever, anything
yeah,
vaguely positive, which is that we see that with all minority groups as well. Oh well,
yeah.
we've done this little tiny thing for you, and those groups feel like, oh God, it's oh thanks so much, that's really great, even though you're like quite
It's
unimpressed. I think it can really foster like more resentment than anything. So I think there is.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm being such a negative Nelly. Maybe we should restart this whole thing. but I feel like there is potential in it. I think I will give you that. I will give you that. But I would like there to be like much more focus on what we're actually trying to do here. Is it meaningful? Is it doing anything? And is it like speaking to the people it's trying to reach? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think, and even you just said there, so I'm going to be a little negative as well. But that sense of we're doing this thing for you. Actually, it's often the women in the organisation that are doing the thing. It's I sometimes think of it as a bit like, for people that celebrate Christmas. Quite often, it's all the work is, or a lot of the work is down to the woman in a conventional household. I've put in that in air quotes for people. and women kind of dread Christmas and some women kind of dread Women's Day, International Women's Day, because it's like, oh, we've got to put on this whole event for our, all our employees. Although having said that, when I was an employee, I put on some brilliant events with friends. We did do all of the work, and then it was written up in the Diversity and Inclusion Report as something that the organisation had done itself. Anyway, am I going to keep that in?
Do you mean it's not the men that go out to buy the pink cupcakes to celebrate International Women's Day?
Amazingly, I doubt it very much. I don't know. Maybe some men do. And do we want pink cupcakes? Are there different things we might want? Who knows?
Yeah, like better maternity policies and fair pay and things like that.
Yeah,
less sexual harassment.
Less sexual harassment. We hadn't mentioned that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just some actual key things that mean that workplaces are more tailored towards women. We're existing workplaces are the sort of the general frameworks of so many workplaces were set up before many women were in a workplace. We kind of going back into previous centuries here where we just weren't in the workplace, and so the hierarchies and the way that there are sort of structures and organizational structures still depend upon somebody else being at home looking after other stuff. The 9 to 5, although obviously we have more flexibility now, but the genuine sort of structures that we have were tailored towards there's somebody else at home. Who would that other person be? It's likely to be a woman, and it's likely to be a man in the workplace. So all of those traditions, if you like, and norms are still expected, and a norm of presenteeism as well. We have more flexibility around working from home, etc. There are pros and cons to that, and my general view is as long as a person's doing the work, that it should be flexing whether that person can be in a workspace or whether they can be working at home. But I think that we need to sort of just have much more open approach to the whole kind of way that our workplace culture is created and the kind of norms that it fosters, so that it can be genuinely more diverse and inclusive to to the things that people have going on basically in their lives.
Okay. I can't think of an uplifting note to this other than let's hope it's better this time next year. We've got slightly more positive stuff to say. Yeah, but I think it's been really. I mean, I feel better, but I don't know if this has been helpful. But I think I don't know. I think it's. I remember this time last year I was feeling particularly grumpy about it, and I felt like I just wanted to hear some people talking about the fact that it's not working. So hopefully we've achieved that today anyway, and maybe we can start more honest conversations about maybe improving this for the future and making maybe 2025 International Women's Day will be the best one ever, and I'm totally loving it. So I'll see you in 12 months' time.
Yeah, I think you need to get more into the grassroots spaces, Tanya. Personally, I'm going dancing on International Women's Day night because that will be a celebration.
Okay, maybe I should look out for an activity, and I'll do that then. Yeah. All right, brilliant. Well, let's wrap up for today, and we'll I'll see you next time for more discussion of something different instead, which may or may not be working. Probably won't be.
Probably won't be. There's a bit of a theme. Okay.
All right. See you soon. Bye, Julie.
See you, Tanya. Bye-bye.